what would you do? If the child you raised with your blood, your sweat, your every sacrifice plotted your death for money. This is the story of Margaret Cole, a mother who gave everything and discovered her own son sharpening the knife for her back. I never imagined that my entire world could shatter in a single afternoon. My name is Margaret Cole. I am 62 years old, and what I discovered that day in my son's car nearly stopped my heart before his plan ever could. It all began with what I thought would be a simple act of love. Ethan, my only son. The very reason I've breathed for more than 3 decades was working long hours at his law firm. I baked his favorite lemon pound cake, the one he adored since he was a boy, and decided to surprise him at the office. When I pulled into the parking lot, I spotted his sleek black sedan tucked away in a far corner. An idea, mischievous and sweet, crossed my mind. I would slip into the back seat, hide like a child playing a prank, and wait for him. I imagined his laughter when I popped up with the cake. That thought warmed my chest. The door was unlocked. I slid inside, crouching low, my heart racing with anticipation. The scent of leather mixed with the sugary aroma of the cake in my hands. Every second felt like forever. Then I heard footsteps. The driver's door opened. Ethan's familiar frame settled into the seat. My heart swelled with tenderness. But then another door opened. A woman's heels clicked against the pavement, and she climbed into the passenger seat. I peeked through the narrow gap. It was Samantha, his wife. At first, my lips curved into a smile. How sweet, I thought. They must be leaving work together. But the sweetness curdled instantly. Are you sure no one will ever suspect anything? Once it happened, Samantha's voice was cold, sharp, almost unrecognizable. Yes, Ethan answered, his tone steady, rehearsed. The plan is perfect. Mom will have a very natural, very believable accident. Nobody questions it when a woman her age falls on the stairs of an old house. My breath caught in my throat. Did I hear him right? My own son, the boy I raised alone after his father died, was plotting my death. Samantha leaned closer, her voice brimming with anticipation. And when it's over, we'll sell that house for at least $200,000. Add in her savings, plus the life insurance. Ethan, we'll finally live the life we deserve. Every word was a knife twisting deeper. That house she spoke of with disdain had been my sanctuary. The place where every wall carried echoes of sacrifice, nights spent awake when Ethan was sick. Birthdays with paper decorations because money was scarce. Afternoons tutoring him at the kitchen table. And then Ethan asked, almost casually, Richard and Elaine are on board, right? Hearing my brother's name, Richard Harris, and his wife Elaine ripped something inside me. Of course, Samantha said. Richard's desperate since losing his job. And Elaine keeps reminding me how your mother never shares. She says it's finally time the family gets what it deserves. Selfish. That word hit harder than any slap. I had scrubbed floors and offices since I was 18 to put food on the table. I had sold my wedding ring to send Ethan to college. I had lived in worn dresses so he could stand proud in polished shoes. And now this. I pressed both hands against my mouth to stop a sob from escaping. The air in that car turned suffocating. My body shook not only from fear, but from the unbearable grief of realizing the people I trusted most were sharpening the knife for my back. They went on, calmly discussing the details of my accident, even rehearsing how heartbroken they would appear at my funeral. And when they finally stepped out, laughing softly as if they had just planned a vacation instead of a murder, I stayed crouched in the shadows, broken. 10 minutes later, I forced myself out of that car. The woman who had entered with love in her heart did not walk out. She had died there, behind those leather seats. What remained was a mother whose soul had been shattered into pieces too sharp to gather. As I stumbled toward my old car, I knew my life would never be the same. My only son, the boy for whom I had sacrificed everything, wanted me dead for money. But to understand the depth of this betrayal, you must first understand how we got here. To understand the depth of betrayal, you must first know the life I lived for Ethan, the life I gave up so he could have one. When Ethan was 8, his father, Robert, died in a construction accident. Overnight, I became a widow with nothing but a child in my arms and an old house that creaked like my breaking heart. No savings, no insurance, only debts and silence. At 20, I put on rubber gloves and never took them off. I scrubbed other people's kitchens while mine stayed empty. I polished floors until my hands blistered raw. My back bent, my youth drained, but each dawn I whispered the same prayer: let him live better than me. Ethan was bright, too bright for the life I could give. Teachers told me, this boy belongs in college. Their words became my mission. Every dollar I earned, I folded away like a secret vow. When he turned 15, he needed a computer. For other mothers, it was nothing. For me, it was 3 months of wages. I sold my wedding ring, the last piece of Robert, to buy it. Ethan never knew. I would rather bleed silently than let him feel guilty for my scars. Then came his dream law school. $20,000 a year. For me, it might as well have been the stars. I went to my brother, Richard, begging for help. He looked me in the eye and said coldly, Ethan should give up those fantasies. Reality doesn't bend for dreamers. That night, I cried until I was hollow. Then I rose. If the world wouldn't help, I would carry it myself. I took another job, mopping a veterinary clinic at midnight. On weekends, I cooked tamales, pies, anything I could sell. I slept in fragments, ate in silence, and worked until my body trembled. Sometimes Ethan begged me to rest. Mom, please, you're killing yourself. I forced a smile. Your only job is to study. Ethan, leave the rest to me. At last, I scraped together enough for his first year. The day I saw his name on the enrollment papers, Ethan Cole, law student, I felt my bones break and heal at the same time. Every wound, every sacrifice, had found its meaning. But those years drained me dry. 14-hour days. Empty plates for me so his could be full. Secondhand shoes on my feet. Brand new textbooks in his hands. Then he met Samantha. She belonged to another world, a world of silk and marble, where money spoke louder than love. She smiled politely. But when she stepped into my home, her eyes lingered on the peeling paint, the frayed curtains, the chipped dishes. She never said a word, yet I heard her judgment in the silence. When Ethan graduated, I thought my storm was over. His first paycheck was more than I could earn in months. At his wedding, I emptied my savings to give him the celebration Samantha demanded. I heard whispers that night. The groom's mother looked so plain, so small, but I swallowed them, because his smile was worth more than my pride. After that, he drifted. Visits became rare, excuses endless. And when he did come, his words carried a new weight. He spoke of fine restaurants, luxury apartments, a house that cost more than I could imagine. And sometimes, when he looked at me, there was something in his tone subtle, sharp, like I embarrassed him. By 60, I had $50,000 saved money I clutched not for myself, but as a shield in case Ethan ever needed it. But deep inside, I knew the boy I had raised with love and sacrifice was no longer the same, and I did not yet know how far he had fallen. After that day in the car, nothing felt real anymore. I moved like a ghost through my own house, hearing their voices echoing in my head, my son's voice planning my death, my brother's greed fueling it. Every creak of the stairs felt like a threat. Every shadow seemed to whisper it could happen tonight. 3 days later, Ethan called me. His tone was sickly sweet, rehearsed, like an actor trying too hard. Mom, Samantha and I want to take you out to dinner. That Italian place you liked. Friday, 7 o'clock. Wear your green dress, you'll look beautiful in it. The green dress. The only expensive dress I had ever bought for myself. Why that one? Why now? His words made my skin prickle. Still, I answered gently. Of course, sweetheart, I'd love that. But when I hung up, I pressed the phone to my chest and whispered into the silence, "They're setting the stage." Friday came. I stood in front of the mirror, the green dress hugging a body worn thin by years of labor. My hands trembled as I fixed my hair. Is this the dress they'll bury me in, I thought. But I forced myself to smile. If this was to be my last supper, I wanted to look them in the eye. They arrived at exactly 7. Ethan fumbled with his car keys, his smile too stiff, too forced. Samantha, on the other hand, glowed with a calm so cold it made my blood run thin. At the restaurant, the candles flickered between us, but no warmth reached the table. They urged me to order the most expensive dish. "Mom," Samantha said sweetly, "don't worry about the price. Tonight is on us. Enjoy yourself." I smiled, though my stomach twisted. Poison, I thought. Not in the food, perhaps, but in their words. Then came the questions, casual, innocent, dagger sharp. "Mom, how have you been feeling lately? Any dizziness?" Ethan asked, pretending concern. "Have you updated your health insurance?" Samantha added, tilting her glass of wine. I swallowed hard. "I'm fine, darling. I know every corner of that house. I'm stronger than you think." But they pressed on. "The stairs are steep," Ethan murmured. "What if you were to fall?" "Accidents don't ask permission," Samantha said, her lips curling. The word accident burned the air between us. I knew then they weren't asking. They were rehearsing. And then Ethan asked, almost casually, "Mom, have you thought about updating your will?" My fork froze halfway to my mouth. I forced a smile. "I already have one. Everything goes to you. Of course." A flicker of satisfaction crossed his face. Samantha's eyes glistened, not with love, but with triumph. After dinner, they insisted on driving me home. Ethan held my arm as we climbed the stairs. "Careful, Mom. These steps are dangerous in the dark." Samantha trailed behind, her eyes darting from the rug to the railing, studying, calculating. Inside, she walked through the house as though she already owned it. "You should really fix these stairs. Margaret, one wrong step." She let the words hang in the air. I nodded, my throat too tight to answer. My son smiled, kissed my cheek, and left me standing in the silence of my home. That night, I sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the green dress draped over a chair. My heart ached with a truth I could no longer deny if I did nothing. They would kill me. So I made the hardest decision of my life. I would not wait for their accident. I would give them exactly what they wanted. I would die on my own terms, but only to rise again. Once the decision was made, sleep abandoned me. Night after night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying their words like a curse accident, insurance, inheritance. If they wanted my death, I would give it to them, but not the way they imagined. I would control it. I would let them believe they had won. And when their masks finally slipped, the world would see who they truly were. There was only one person I could trust, my neighbor, Helen Morris, a retired nurse who had been my friend for 20 years. I knocked on her door one trembling morning, my voice breaking. "Helen, I need your help. What I'm about to tell you will sound insane, but it's the only way I'll survive." She listened in silence as I poured out everything: the conversation in the car, the dinner, the will. Her eyes widened in horror, then hardened into resolve. "My God, Margaret, this is monstrous. But if you're truly serious, I'll help you. We'll do it safely." Together, we planned the unthinkable: my own death. With her medical knowledge, Helen would guide me into a death-like state, my pulse faint, my breath nearly gone. She would call 911, the paramedics would declare me dead, and from there a sympathetic Dr. Bennett would sign the certificate. And I would disappear. The day came like a storm disguised as sunlight. A Sunday afternoon. I dressed carefully in a yellow dress, combed my hair, even applied a touch of lipstick. If I was to die, I wanted dignity. Helen held my hand. Are you ready? More ready than I've ever been. The pills were bitter. Within minutes, the world blurred. My limbs felt heavy, my breath shallow, my heart slowing into silence. I heard Helen's voice, distant but steady. Stay calm. Margaret, you're safe. Trust me. Darkness wrapped around me. Then the sound of sirens, doors bursting open, heavy boots. Female. Unresponsive. No pulse. Respiration imperceptible. I found her like this. Helen's voice broke, convincing even me. Please, help her. Minutes passed. A verdict fell, I'm sorry. She's gone. Likely a heart attack. Officially, I was dead. Hours later, I awoke in Helen's basement, disoriented, my throat dry as dust. She was there, watching over me, whispering, "It worked. You're safe." But my safety was nothing compared to what came next. Hidden cameras we placed in my house began streaming live. I watched, trembling, as Ethan, Samantha, Richard, and Elaine walked into my home the very next day. No tears, no silence, no mourning. Only hunger. Well, finally, Elaine sneered. I thought she'd never die. Patricia, please, Ethan muttered, but his eyes scanned the room, already searching for documents. They tore through my drawers like scavengers. Samantha opened my jewelry box. This gold chain will fetch something. Forget sentimental junk. Elaine snapped. We need the bank accounts. Richard rifled through papers until Ethan pulled out the envelope. His voice was flat savings $50,000, insurance $100,000, house $200,000. Perfect. Perfect. They laughed. They bargained over my life as if it were a business deal. Samantha even suggested a quick cremation, cheaper and faster. She said so no one would ask questions. And then Richard did something that broke what little was left of me. He found a family photo on my nightstand, our only Christmas together. He tossed it into the trash without a second thought. In that moment, I realized it wasn't just greed. It was contempt. To them, my life had been nothing but an obstacle. Watching them, my grief turned into something sharper than sorrow. It became steel. I whispered to Helen, my voice trembling but certain. They think they've buried me. But I'll rise from the dead. And when I do, the whole world will see exactly who they are. The days that followed were a torment of waiting. From Helen's basement, I watched them strip my life bare, my jewelry, my savings, my memories all parceled out like spoils of war. But worse than the greed was the laughter. They laughed at my death, at my stubbornness, at how long it had taken me to finally die. That was when I knew it wasn't enough to survive. I had to rise, and when I did, I would not rise in silence. I would rise before the world. Helen had a friend, Grace Turner, an investigative reporter with Channel 7. We showed her the recordings, the documents, the cruel words. She sat in silence, jaw clenched, then whispered, "This will be the story of the year." Margaret, are you ready to destroy them? I'm not destroying them, I said coldly. They destroyed themselves. I'm only going to hold up the mirror. The stage was set. My family scheduled a meeting at my house, a so-called reading of the will. In truth, it was nothing but a feeding frenzy. Grace arranged cameras, police, the entire world watching. Saturday afternoon. They sat in my living room, the same room where I had once read Ethan bedtime stories. He now held my documents in his hands, speaking solemnly, as if he were the patriarch of a dynasty. As you all know, he said, My mother named me sole heir, but we'll divide things fairly. Samantha smiled thinly. Richard scribbled numbers. Elaine tapped her pen like a banker tallying profits. And then I turned the key. The door creaked open. Silence fell like a blade. I stepped into the room wearing a crimson dress, the one from Ethan's wedding, my chin high, my heart pounding like a war drum. Behind me, the cameras followed, their lights scorching the lies out of the air. Samantha's face went white. She screamed as if she'd seen a ghost. Ethan stumbled to his feet, papers scattering like ashes. Mom, you're dead, Elaine sobbed hysterically. It's a spirit, it can't be. Richard froze, his mouth opening and closing without a sound. I smiled, though my voice trembled with rage. Hello, my dear family. I hope I'm not interrupting your business meeting. Grace stepped forward, her microphone gleaming. Good afternoon. This is Channel 7 News, broadcasting live. What you are about to witness is perhaps the most shocking revelation this city has ever seen. Ethan tried to recover. This is a trick, someone's framing us. Framing. I cut him off. My voice cracked, but it carried years of fury. Like this. I pressed play on my phone. The recording filled the room. Mom will have a very natural, very believable accident. The sound of Ethan's voice cold, calculating, hung in the air like poison. Samantha collapsed into tears. Elaine screamed it was fake. Richard muttered about misunderstandings. Misunderstandings, I thundered. Was it a misunderstanding when you laughed about my death? When you called me a burden? When you threw away the only family photo we had? The cameras caught every flicker of their panic. Police officers stepped forward. Ethan Cole? Samantha Cole? Richard Harris? Elaine Harris, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder. Handcuffs clinked. My son, my only son, looked at me one last time. Mom, please. I love you. I'm sorry. Tears burned my eyes, but I did not soften. Love, my voice was sharp as glass. You planned my death for money. You buried me without a prayer. You loved the inheritance, not me. He bowed his head as the officers dragged him away. Grace turned to me. Mrs. Cole, how does it feel to confront them? I looked into the camera, into the eyes of thousands watching. It feels like justice. For 35 years, I sacrificed everything for my son, my youth, my health, my life. And in return, he planned my murder. Let the world see what greed does. Let the world remember family is not defined by blood, but by love. The interview ended. The house emptied. And at last, silence returned. I sank into the same armchair where Ethan had once sat plotting my death. But now it was mine again. Mine. For the first time in weeks, I felt peace. Not because my heart wasn't broken, it was shattered, but because the truth had finally spoken louder than their lies. From that day on, I lived not as the mother who died for her son's greed, but as the woman who rose from her own grave to reclaim her life. And if you're listening to my story tonight, remember this betrayal may bury you, but truth will resurrect you.